Hello, welcome back to my haunted library. It's Regina, and welcome to another Slow Burn Sunday. Today we have a film that's a great Halloween week film called The Changeling, starring George C. Scott, and it's really great. And like my other film reviews, this one will have spoilers because it's really hard to talk about the film without kind of giving a lot of it away. So just a warning. And Batilda will not be joining us today because she said she's working on her Halloween costume. She's very busy. So make sure you tune in to Batilda's Halloween special that's coming up this week on Halloween Day. So we're really excited about that. So let's talk about this film. I remember seeing this. I don't think I ever saw it in the movie theater. I think I saw it on TV. But this came out in 1979. It's a Canadian film. And a lot of it was shot in Canada, Vancouver. But it takes place in the beginning in New York and then in Seattle. So before I start talking about the film, I just wanted to mention that this story is supposedly based on true events. So if anyone else knows more about that or wants to comment or recommend further reading, please put it in the comments below. So this film begins with George C. Scott, who was a big star way into the 70s. I mean, I knew he was a younger star, he was big like in the 50s, 60s. I remember him being in films like this from the late 70s. And he was actually married to his co-star. And I'm wondering if that might have broken up his second marriage to Colleen Dewhurst. To his co-star is named Trish Van Devere. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right, but she is really stunning in this and very stylish in this film. I really enjoyed her whole persona and her outfits. So in the beginning, George C. Scott is with his also very glamorous young wife and their daughter who looks to be around 12 or 13. And there's a terrible car accident where they are both killed. And then we cut to George C. Scott at this very moody kind of piano music. The score in this film is really good and it's very classy. So you see George C. Scott wandering around New York kind of with a heaviness about him of a grieving man. And he leaves Manhattan. It's a really kind of nice apartment. He leaves. So he's like an upper class kind of guy and visits some friends, and they get him in Seattle. They get him a teaching position at a university. And when he goes to his first class, it's like packed with students. So there is an idea that he is a renowned musician and someone maybe somewhat famous in the music world, classical music. So he's looking for a place to live, and he ends up renting this big old mansion that has been unoccupied for many years. And a very classy lady, played by Trish Van Devere. Her character's name is Claire Norman. She works for the Historical Society and ends up helping him get this old mansion where he can be kind of grieve silently, but also work. He thinks that work is going to help him get over his grief. And there's a piano and he gets down to work. And I like the kind of this romance between these two characters, but it's very covert. I mean, not covert in like a sleazy way, more like they never kiss in the film. They never even embrace. But you could tell that there is this step-by-step little romance happening. Like maybe it's too soon for him. And she doesn't exactly throw herself at him because she's too classy, but you can tell that she's interested and he's interested too. And throughout the duration of the film, the characters kind of move closer together without ever having like a romantic moment. So we are saved seeing George C. Scott like in bed with this woman, which might not be a bad thing. So I guess it's just something I noticed when I was watching it. It was like, that's a nice touch. It doesn't always have to be like in your face. He moves into this house, he starts his teaching job, and then he starts working on some new music, which just kind of comes to him. But also there are weird sounds going on in the house. This banging. And when he goes to investigate, he finds this little music box and it's playing the same tune that he sort of spontaneously started playing the piano. So things progress slowly with these little weird occurrences happening. And then one day he's outside of the house and a window breaks like from the inside and shatters glass and like this like stained glass. And then he does go up, investigate, and finds kind of a sealed off room, kind of like Rosemary's Baby in a way, like in the closet, behind the shelves. And it's a little child's room that has a bathtub and a wheelchair, a tiny wheelchair. So it belonged to a child who was disabled. So one night when he's in the house and he goes to investigate more of these sounds, he goes into the bathroom. And now things in bathtubs are very scary. I don't know what that is, but maybe it's like a rebirth kind of thing. It's very primal. It's creepy. He sees a little boy in the bathtub, like underneath the water, drowning. So he does some investigation about the what's happening inside the house with a lady from the historical society. There's an older woman who's very like, it's kind of one of those, they shouldn't let anyone live in that house. Like she's got some kind of inside knowledge about this house. So they discovered that there was a girl who lived at the house who was killed in the street. And so George C. Scott's character, John Russell, thinks, well, maybe this child is trying to connect with me because I lost a child. So without it really coming out with it, I don't think, unless I missed this, there's a sense that because he's in a state of grief, and there's this one very, very, very touching scene where he finally breaks. Like at the beginning, he's like, I'm numb. And I think that happens to people when there's, when they've had that kind of death. It's so close, they can't really process it until later. And he does finally break, and his acting is really, really good. And there's something about seeing that a large kind of tough guy cry that is very moving. So he thinks this child is able to communicate with him, or is trying to communicate with him, because he understands this loss. One of my favorite parts of the film is when they decide to have a seance in the house. Now this is right in my wheelhouse. I love seances. I've been to a few. And even when we were kids, growing up in an old house, we used to have seances and play with the Ouija board and this kind of thing. Ouija board I'm a little scared of, I have to admit. I've had some weird experiences with Ouijaing, but I love a good seance. And the seance scene is great. There's this woman and she's doing like automatic writing. And that whole scene is just great. And John Russell, Scott's character, records it on his reel-to-reel. Another character is established. I kind of missed a very important character, played by Melvin Douglas. And that is a Joseph Carmichael, who is the senator. And he is a major contributor to the Historical Society. And he's a rich guy who rides around in a limo and a private jet and this kind of thing. So through this seance, they discover that this child trying to reach John is not the girl who was killed in the street, but a boy who was killed by his father. And in a really gruesome scene, you see the father drown the boy in the bathtub. And there's something so chilling and disturbing and beyond disturbing with when a parent kills the child. Whether it's a true crime story or in a book, in fiction or film, it's unforgivable, and it's so heart wrenching. And you hear this little boy crying about his medal. He has a baptism medal, and George C. Scott finds they find this well where the child was buried below this house, and so they dig up the house and they find this medal. And George C. Scott confronts Melvin Douglas's character, Carmichael, with the medal and confronts him. And that's what the Changeling is that the father of the crippled boy killed him because the boy wasn't going to live to inherit his wealth. And after he killed him, he raised another child in his place. And that is the Melvin Douglas character. And it kind of like, it has that theme of, you can't hide these things, that these, it's kind of like The Ring, that's another in the well, kind of trying to hide the child. It's really, really disturbing. It does come up, it's going to come back. Little Joseph is not at rest. This comes out in the seance, he's not at rest because he was wronged. He was terribly, terribly wronged by his father. And then when George C. Scott confronts Melvin Douglas's character, the senator, he can't deal with the truth, although he knows it's the truth. He's like, my father was a great man. It's like, no, he wasn't. And his world falls apart. And then it gets into this very supernatural scene where Claire shows up at the house. She gets chased by the boy's wheelchair down the steps. The house goes up in flames, and we see the senator character kind of like his spirit, or like he dies, and then like it looks like a heart attack, and then he kind of ascends these stairs to make peace with what his part of this wrong that was done. And then Claire rescues John from the house, and they kind of come together. The house burns down, and all you see that's left is the little wheelchair and the music box eerily playing as the credits roll. So it's a really well put together story. It's sad, it's moving, it's very scary. I mean, I say more chilling than scary. I always find that these quiet films are the ones that really make me think and get under my skin and kind of haunt my dreams. And The Changeling is definitely one of those. No, get down. It's not trick or treat yet. So next time on Slow Burn Sunday, I'm going to be looking at another film from around the same time, or I think it came out in 1980, maybe 81, and that is Ghost Story, based on a novel by Peter Straub, and that will be next time. So have a lovely Halloween week, stay safe, and I will see you soon in my haunted library. Bye!